Hello, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities presents the Hometown Haunts podcast. I'm your host, Kat Cloco. Tonight with me in the shadows is Christina Wald and Jen Kohler, and we also have two wonderful guests who we'll be reintroducing in a minute, Amanda and Ashlee. But before that, like every week, I must remind all of you that we are on social media, and you can find us at Cin Cabinet Curio on Twitter, Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram, and our email, which would be, oh man, it got copied from an older thing. Hold on. It's at hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com. There we go. And you can just send us all of your ghost stories, creepy encounters, and urban legends from your neck of the woods to that email. We love to hear them. Like last week, we had the wonderful person who had Kings Island stories shared their stories through that email. We are an official podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can find us on iTunes as Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities. Please rate and review us so other spooky ghost lovers like you can find our wonderful podcast. And also, Cincinnati is spelled Cincinnati, because I got asked quite recently how to spell it. It's like Mississippi. It confounds everyone. Anyway. Oh, yes, this is going to be a fun roundtable episode with Sassy Kat and the team. With us tonight, we have two returning guests, Amanda and Ashlee of Spiritual Realm Paranormal. Ladies, would you like to reintroduce yourselves to our audience?
Sure. My name is Ashlee St. Dennis. I'm the founder of Spiritual Realm Paranormal. I'm also the owner of Spiritual Realm Consulting. I'm a medium. I started the investigation team 7-8 years ago. I really lost track. I said that last time too. And yeah, Amanda joined the team a little bit ago. Amanda?
Yeah, Amanda. Sensitive and marketing. Marketing for sensitives. I don't know. That might be an idea. But anyhow, yeah, I joined Spiritual Realm not too long ago. Marketing for them and investigations. So we're here. Now let's talk.
Ooh, I'm making EVPs over here. Thank you for joining us.
The stomach demons are the worst.
Yeah. This one was the throat, which is exactly where my mic is. And I'm like, oh no, our listeners are going to think we're possessed. In fact, it was a humble drink of water that gurgled down. Anyway, so this will be an interesting, fun episode because it's just a round table of us telling our best ghost stories in an effort to completely creep out Jen. Yeah. So, yeah, Jen looks eager.
It's very easy to do.
Yeah. I've discovered this. Mm-hmm. And I must say, my little ant heart, I'm like, yeah, this is fun. I like creeping you out. I don't know.
I live to hear the stories.
Yes.
I just think I kind of feel bad, but then again, no.
No, you enjoy it so much.
I do. I enjoy being safely scared. If it were real, not so much. But yeah.
Yes.
I find it fun to talk to people who feel that way because I don't realize how abnormal it is.
Yeah.
Until somebody comes into the conversation and they're like, this is really creepy. And I'm like, oh, really? It's my day-to-day life.
Yeah. And then there's also that feeling of, yay, somebody else gets the weirdness that I get every day, or at least a few times a week. And yeah.
It's made me realize how small my bubble is. Like my whole bubble is just weird. So when I go out of it,
yeah.
Do you ever let something slip, like when you're in a group of people that you kind of sort of know, and then they just all kind of look at you like you're fucking, excuse me, that you're crazy? Sorry, Christina. Because I get that. I have been called creepy girl. Sorry. I've been called creepy girl. You know, when I start talking about murder, I get looked at funny.
The murder talks. Yeah. True crime and murder, like the weird knowledge of serial killers and true crime, that's a big turnoff to people, I find, when I've gone to like different events, like my sister-in-law's wedding, talking to other guests. They're like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I wrote this wonderful book called Ohio's Haunted Crime, and it has serial killers and other weird murders in it. And they're just like, no. But they go, wait, it's haunted. I go, yes, there are ghosts involved. And I'm like, well, tell us about that. And I'm like, sure, I'll tell you about all the dead people, but you don't want to know how they died. You just want to hear how they're haunting people.
But I'll get the weird look and I realize just how gleeful I am when I'm like, so have you heard about H.H. Holmes? Oh my gosh. And then just start going down the rabbit hole of like, and I went on a tour and it was like, oh God, this is, did you know he came to Cincinnati? Like it's, yeah.
Fun thing about H.H. Holmes, I investigated the murder cottage in Indianapolis that he...
Oh, yeah.
There's a place that still exists that he did things in?
It's, so the property does.
Okay.
It's a private residence.
Oh.
It's actually two. So the property, it was a little cottage that H.H. Holmes killed Howard Faisal in, and the property got split in two, so now there's two small... I won't call them bungalow-sized homes. So one home sits on where all Howard's body pieces were found, and the other one sits on the actual cottage bit. Both of them have seen activity. It was not my proudest ghost hunting experience, but or moment, but it was creepy.
Do we know where he was with the girls in the trunk in Cincinnati?
I don't know about that one. This is where he picked up the girls, though.
Yeah,
in Indianapolis.
He brought them here too. They were here in Cincinnati for a while, but I could never, like, digging into the depths of the internet, find where he actually stayed, like the house that he rented. So, if anyone knows,
it'd be funny if it was Jen's
part. It's not my house isn't old enough.
Dang it.
I didn't know that he was in Cincinnati. They mainly concentrate on the hotel in Chicago.
Yep.
Which
Devil
I
in the
think
White City.
was burned down, correct? Yep. The community burned it down.
There's a post office there now that you can, if you sweet talk the ladies there with some donuts, from what I have heard, you can get a tour of the basement.
Whoa.
They also said that, so like basement actually like where the dungeons kind of were. The chutes, whatever you want to call it. But also they report that people taking pictures can see faces in the windows of the post office.
Ooh, wow.
Yep.
That's pretty wild.
I kind of enjoy that.
I can be bribed with donuts too.
Same.
Saying.
Especially if they're really good donuts.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So
I'm trying to see exactly where he was.
I like
Cincinnati
the
Magazine
once. Sorry.
No, Cincinnati Magazine. Oh, yeah, that makes everyone's mind just kind of wander to a gleeful place. Yeah, I was looking up. Cincinnati Magazine did an entire article called "The Devil in the Queen City" from 2015.
Oh wow, I'm gonna have to read that because I don't know that much about that. I guess I'm the only one of the three of us that doesn't listen to a lot of true crime.
I don't either. I'm
podcasts. Well, I mean, yeah, I the podcasts I listen to are mostly comedian ones and and other art ones and comedy ones.
I have been I've been trying to catch up on Small Town Murder, which is two comedians, and oh my God,
that's
they're
probably
great.
a good start for me if it's comedians doing it or something like that.
Oh, it's graphic, Christina. It can get very graphic, but
I'm sure it's good.
It's very good. The one I was listening to today, before I ate dinner, I had to hit pause on it, but they were talking about a woman that predicted, she was a psychic and she was predicting the killer. Like she drove past a place where he was arrested as a teenager, and she's just like, something happened here. Like she was I haven't fully listened to the whole episode, but she was like nailing this guy and his life and the things that he had done. And I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Like, because she was just driving by and getting the feelings and everything. And I'm like, creepy, but awesome.
I tend to stay away from the true crime stuff and stories because
it's just too
what I start picking stuff up if I'm listening to it, and it freaks me out, and then I can't sleep because I'm like, wait, is this important information that I need to share with somebody? And then I start like eating away at myself, and then I can't sleep. So,
yeah.
Is that do you have that happen?
That's a skill I don't want to say thankfully haven't picked up, though sometimes I can read them and say, oh, this person's dead or this person's alive, but that would be all I get.
Yeah.
I was reading the newspaper article to see about H.H. Holmes, sorry, springing back to that, and there was 2 hotels he stopped off in Cincinnati. One was the Atlantic House on Central Avenue, and the other one was the Bristol at 6th and Vine. And then the Pinkertons that were after him stayed at 305 Poplar Street in Bellevue, Kentucky. Wow. So those are the 3 locations that have H.H. Holmes here in Cincinnati. So returning back to reading. Yes, Jen?
Were the girls dead when he was here?
No, they were alive.
Okay.
He killed they ended up in the trunk, but that was in Indianapolis. Whoa. And then he took them up to Toronto in a trunk. Okay.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So thanks for finding that.
See, this is what keeps me from sleeping.
This is true crime stuff. Interesting.
Yeah.
But there was a wonderful website called diedinhouse.com that will look up property records for you to see if anyone's died in your house.
Interesting.
I saw somebody put that link in a group I'm in, and I opened it, and then it looked really sketchy, so I closed out of it.
It's not hard to do a property search in Hamilton County. You just go to I think it was the office of the register.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can contact.
It's free.
You can contact the police department in your neighborhood, and if there's anything, I mean, police reports are public information. Mm-hmm. Like I found out. This was after I moved into my house that my house was in a fire in 2017. Oof. And my neighbor told me, so I called up the fire department. I'm like, hey, apparently my house was in a fire. Can I get the report? Sure. They emailed it to me. And
wow,
I guess
that's interesting.
The woman living here at the time, her and her kids fell asleep in the basement watching TV and left some incense burning in the living room and set the house on fire.
Whoa.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's a reason to keep an eye on that incense.
I don't light incense, although I do have a candle burning right now. But every once in a while, if it gets really hot, I can get a faint smoky smell. And I think it might be coming from the rafters in the attic.
That's spooky.
Yeah.
So
is it?
Well, just as a reminder that there was a fire there, not as in a ghost, although that may explain some ghost, like Kat can speak tonight, some residual smells that people get in especially old places. I'm like around Gettysburg or anywhere, like I'm looking at Whispers Estate in Mitchell, Indiana, any old bar that's in Great Britain, like Bobby Mackey's Music World, all that
smoke.
Brings
up a good question. So like when I first started to learn how to write a scene, they teach you to kind of, or at least I interpreted it this way, you approach it through your senses. So you write down what you smell, what you see, what you feel, what you hear. Are your experiences like that too? Are they strictly visual? I know you get the I don't know if this is cliche about when you feel like you're walking through a cobweb or it's cold, temperature variations, but does it go beyond that?
I think you're kind of talking about 2 different things. So actually interacting with a spirit. Yeah. You're going to there's the cold spot, there's the cobwebs, there's, stuff that, I mean, Ashlee has seen me at investigations enough now. If I start to have them around, like I'm doing this because they're constantly touching my head. But for like the smell and the taste, that's more the Claire, shoot, I pulled it up. Claire Alliance, smelling. So there are different Claires for smelling, sight, taste, and I haven't necessarily, like, me personally, haven't been walking through a room and go like, well, that tastes like a lollipop. I wonder who had a lollipop. That's not.
I think taste is the most rare.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't.
Does anybody really want it though?
No. But pretty much everything else. And it's just for me, it's when I'm practicing mediumship and actually trying to tap into that. And, then I'll feel how somebody felt. I'll smell things. That's happened very rarely, but, practicing one time and got basically like hit upside the head with the smell of fresh cut grass. And it's like overwhelming and no explanation for it whatsoever. So there's the Claire's, and then there's the you've been hit by a spirit kind of thing.
Nope.
How about you, Ashlee?
When I do readings, I have to explain like all the different ways I sense things because I explain them differently. Like if I hear something, I have to say, they say. If I feel something, I say, I feel. But I think the strongest, other than like I'll hear words or sentences, but I feel a lot of, like, I'll know how somebody passed based on where I feel my body pains. Like, and I can somehow, what I feel in my head, I know that's an aneurysm, or like my left arm always hurts and my chest hurts if it's a heart attack. Like I can that's how I pinpoint their passing. Sorry, someone's trying to come through now.
Yeah, isn't that annoying? You're just like, I'm just trying to explain how I read things. I actually don't want to do a reading. So just chill on that for a moment.
And then like the emotions too. I get a lot of their emotions come through. Yeah, I see pictures.
So that's a good segue into your first experiences. Who wants to go first? How did you know? Like what, and were you freaked out when or was it just something like you were always talking to people that weren't there and people said that's not normal? I mean, who wants to go first?
Well, I do have a little PSA before we do that. If you are a ghost hunter or a paranormal investigator and you smoke cigarettes, for the love of Christ and all things holy, don't do it during an investigation.
Thank you.
Just don't.
Thank you.
And if you need to, do it easily 100 feet away from the door or any windows, and then like douse yourself with Febreze and tell everyone you have. Or better yet, just stay outside, because we will pick up on that smell. And if we are trying to be at a location where cigarette smoke or lavender or any phantom smells, that is a really weird way of putting that, is reported, you are ruining all of that data we could have collected by the fact that you had to smoke. Just don't do it.
We make it clear, not even on public investigations, to not wear perfume. Like don't
or heavy deodorant.
Yeah.
Right.
Take a night off. Within the team, we're like, try to use a neutral deodorant.
Yeah.
Because it helps so much just to not have that question.
Yeah. And no flip-flops.
Amen.
No flip-flops. Like
good heavy meal that's gonna sit.
Yes.
Will make noise.
No tacos, no bean dip. Nothing that's gonna make your tummy rumble.
If you do pass gas during the investigation, own it. 1, because phantom smell, and 2, we'll hear it on all the audio recording. And like your pride and ego just go out the window when you're with a group of people in the dark talking to nonsense sometimes. Like, let's be honest, we all look a little nutter in a dark room farting. Oh my goodness. Mel Brooks should be writing something about this.
Someone's gonna be like, wait, do you smell a body decomposing?
Oh, I had the quesarita. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Dang it, Ralph. Anyhow. So first experiences. And I also have paranormal puppy Chewy behind me now. So that's not a living rug, that's a dog, everyone. So oh, I got stories, but everyone hears me every week. So Amanda, Ashlee, you go.
I can so I think I said this on the last one. Like, I remember as a kid, seeing people playing with people that weren't there. Like, I distinctly remember there was this older man in a black and red buffalo plaid shirt, and we were playing around this old workshop. It was his workshop. That's the first time I can really remember that wasn't a person there. But then, came through adulthood, got kind of, mixed up with one of those first marriages to a Baptist. So that kind of ruined everything for a while. And I put up a big wall because that wasn't there. But then, oh gosh, over on west side of Cincinnati, we were living in a house there, old farmhouse, and just the first adult experience. I remember sitting there on the couch, and off to my right was the entrance to the kitchen, and just got that somebody staring at me kind of feeling, and turned and saw a woman standing there in the doorway with the curled up hair and her flower apron and her dress on. And I remember looking at her and and this is one, it sounds so weird because that's what we all do. I looked at her and her eyes were red. I'm like, oh, you don't like me being here, do you? Okay, cool. And then she went away. Oh, sweet. She's what? So that was my first as an adult, oh God, I can see things, and I remember seeing things. And then it took a few years to open up to it.
I was about to say, that's a really good episode of WandaVision you watched.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you first saw this, you weren't scared at all? You just were like, oh, there's just somebody that's not how hard is it? When you see someone like that, do you think do you know instantly that they're not solid, that they're not of this?
Oh yeah, there's no feet.
Yeah, no feet is pretty classic across the board around the world.
Yeah, which
is that the feet are either missing or they're turned the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that it's
going through just I, even though I'm a creative, I still have a very analytical brain. So just kind of, I remember staring, and just same that I do now. If I wake up and I see something beside my bed, am I imagining that? Am I dreaming? Kind of going through that checklist, nope, this is real. Okay, now now time to process. So yeah, no feetsies.
Yeah, no feetsies. That's pretty common. Ashlee?
Oh, this is hard. I think my earliest remembering is 4. I barely remember some of these things. But with other people, that was seeing somebody walk through my grandma and grandpa's house. It's just little things like that from that early age. And then me just knowing that it wasn't somebody I knew, so I didn't say anything ever. And somehow I always did that. A lot of kids will still say things with what they see. For some reason, I never said stuff. And I think part of that was I grew up in the church from birth. And something in me knew that I wasn't supposed to be seeing these things. So I don't know. Anyway, I think my first, oh crap, was when I was in, oh gosh. And I'm just kind of now remembering this, Amanda, which is funny. I was in, there's a lot of things happened throughout the 29 years of experiences. I I guess it had to have been kindergarten through third grade is when I was at this school, which we've recently had contact with, and we're working on getting an investigation there. But I remember being outside at recess playing with my best friend, and I looked over in the field where we weren't allowed to play because we had to stay on the playground. And there was this little girl, like just playing in the grass, like playing with the grass and the flowers and things. And I was like, what's happening right now? I just kind of stood there and stared. And my friend was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, and I didn't say anything because I was scared. But that was probably my earliest. And then I had a lot of little things happen over time because I was still like, I don't know if this is true for every medium. It is for a lot that I've talked to. Over your life, you kind of have to decide what you're going to accept and if you're going to kind of follow that push to like follow it, right? So like I've had all these experiences, and each one of them I'm like, do I listen or do I ignore it and forget it exists and close it off?
Yeah.
So over time, I think my most significant experiences, my grandpa's actually come to me. He passed when I was 6. He has come to me through like certain points in those pivotal turning. I think he's more of a guide for me in those turning points for leading me on my spiritual path, and getting me here. But like he appeared during my back surgery, and I saw him, and I actually told my mom about that because I was like, did he have a cowboy hat? Because I was like really confused because I was still kind of high, and I'm still not positive that wasn't the drugs. But like she was like, yeah, we lived in Texas. And then like 5 years, it's like 3 or 4 years before I had my first kid, which is kind of when really things started getting pushed. He appeared at the side of my bed, and I just saw his face. And like, I knew that's what it meant, because after that point, I started like, my friend's dad just randomly came through, and I texted her and I was like, your dad said this. And she's like, what? How did you know that? And I'm like, I don't know. So like, I don't know. It's just been a whirlwind. And then he appeared a month ago or so when I was at the beginning of another huge spiritual shift. And he said, it's time, whatever the heck that means. So yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then and all the other things, seeing, hearing, feeling, it can be overwhelming. But
yeah. So I remember the first time I definitely knew that the thing I was looking at had passed on. But I know when I was really little, I would point out to like cemeteries and stuff and ask mom about like the people standing there. And she's like, no, there's no one there. And then
my nephew did the same thing.
Yeah, it's you just sit there, and it's just, to me, they were just people dressed in mourning attire, different decades, but you'll have different, like, people wearing all black dresses with the hats and the veil, or people in suits. And the ones that were fun were like the black leisure suits from the 70s. But yeah, anyway, yeah. Sorry, memory. Anyhow, so I remember. So I'll tell the story of the first definite ghost that I saw. There were bits and pieces beforehand, but I was so young that it's just kind of like, did that happen? Was that a weird dream type of thing? So I kind of put those in the other category. And so this is actually, ironically, the house that I just finished cleaning out. So when I was in elementary school, I was around 8 years old at the time. I have, and I still to this day, and I have, if you've ever listened to any of my other interviews on shows like Darkness Radio, Ghostly Talk, stuff like that, I've actually told this story. I have a bad habit of waking up at 2 a.m. to need to use the restroom. It's just like clockwork, always, since I've been 5. And so like that, when I was 8, one summer night, I got up and was walking to the bathroom, and at my door's threshold, I stopped and I was watching a tall man. He was glowing blue. And then the makeup of the rest of him was blue. Everything was blue. So you had a light blue outline, and then all of his details were in like smoky blue, and he was glowing slightly blue. And he walked right past me and into the linen closet that was directly to my right. And I remember just watching him walk past me. He did not care I was there. He did not even acknowledge I was there, but he walked right into the linen closet. And I remember staring at this linen closet, which is about 2 feet wide and about 3 feet deep, but it was full of built-in shelving. And having been a young child, and I'm already pretty tiny as it is an adult, I would hide in that linen closet when I'd play hide and go seek or anything like that. And the things kept inside were family heirlooms that, especially on the top shelves. So this man walks past me and just goes right through the door. And it's one of those slatted doors also that you can pull it to one side. And I just look at it and I immediately open the door and start pulling out everything that's in this closet. And my mom pops out of her bedroom and she's like, "Kate, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, there was a man and he walked into the closet." And my mom's like, "No, Kate, no one walked into the closet. Go back to bed." And I'm like, "But I gotta go pee." And moms, you're like, "Okay, go pee and then go back to bed." So that was that. The next morning, I'm helping my mom clean up the kitchen and after a meal. And I'm like, "Hey, I saw this man." And I go to describe what he looked like. And he was very tall, very lean, had a very pronounced cheekbones, slightly large ears, was Caucasian, had short hair that he had in a comb over, and freckles. And I got the immediate impression that he was a redhead and that he did wear glasses, but wasn't at this time. And I explained this all to my mom, and she about broke the dish that she was drying at that time. And she goes and hands me a photo, and she's like, "This is my father." And I hadn't seen photos of my grandfather in a healthy state because all the photos I had seen of him were from 1970, when the year before he passed away from cancer. And he was a skeleton of himself by that time. So those are all the photos I had seen of him. It aged him immensely. But this was a younger version of him and still had comb over. Like, apparently receding hairlines are a thing in that side of the family. But yeah, so she was just very spooked that I managed to describe how the father that she remembers in her youth looked like. Yeah, so that was my first definite ghost experience. So, yeah.
Did you ever figure out who the blue man was?
That was him. It was my grandpa.
Oh, it was your grandfather. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't
Why was he
connection.
blue?
That's a good question. That's a question I get a lot. I don't know about you, Ashlee and Amanda. Like, why do different ghosts show up as like black shadow people? Why do they why white? Why blue? Why green? And then also, why do ghosts always wear clothes? That's a common question I get as well. And I'm like, not all of them do. There are some ghost stories of nude people.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I could probably, look up and see a million different theories as to why spirits will show differently. But yeah, typically I'll see unless it's the kind of more full body where I can see the person, it's usually white, billowy that I'll see.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about it before.
Yeah.
I have seen most of those, but it's very rare that when I usually see it like my mind's eye. They're showing me that they're there, and I can explain them by what they're showing me. I sound crazy in my head, but I'm not seeing the physical apparition of them. So I've probably at this point, shadow figures aside, like apparitions where you can tell what they're wearing and describe what they're wearing. I mean, it's probably below 10 exact, like at that point. And those are all really memorable to me. But I would, based on what I have sensed in the past, I would say that has something to do with their type of energy. Like, I've had some that are like more sad and feel oppressed still, or whatever happened to them was a lot more terrible. Those will be, on the darker side of things, and it'll just feel that way too. And I don't know. That's, if I had to guess, that's what I would say based on what I've seen. But
that leads me to my next question. And to most of the people that try to come through to you or do show themselves to you, do they always have something to say, or there's something unfinished about while they're still here? Or do they, I mean, is there a reason why they're still here and that you see them? Or they just exist?
I like, that's a loaded question.
It's so such a loaded question.
I will tell a funny story if you want to get your thoughts about that, because that was a big question.
That is.
Okay. I figured. Sorry.
It's all right. So, as for the ghosts that we see and run into in investigations, so I was doing an investigation. I think I've talked about this before, but not very much, for not very long, at Smith's Castle in Rhode Island, which it sounds like it should be a huge castle, but it's a fortified 2-story house. And I think I talked about this last time. I walked in on a ghost that wasn't expecting to see me. So sometimes they're just bopping around places because that's where they're comfortable, and they don't expect to see the living. Or if they do, most of the time the living kind of don't bother seeing them. And they're really shocked when they run into somebody who can see them back, especially when you are a 1600s merchant in your nightgown and cap, not expecting to see a woman in the 21st century walk in at you at 10 o'clock at night. So he was shocked. I was shocked. We were all shocked, and we all embarrassingly scurried off to our respectful corners of the house.
I love that story. I think for me, now that my thoughts are a little bit more organized, in my personal experience, seeing a full body, at least my impression, the vibe that I got was there was, anger, hurt. There was some very heightened emotion that allowed them to be like that to me. In day-to-day life, a white blur walking past me, scurrying on the floor, like those, that's my everyday, like that's super common. Now, what I will say is, we've been in this house for less than a year now, 6 months ish. And the folks that are showing up in my bedroom, because they're still doing it, they're showing up completely different than I've had other experiences before. So I'm still trying to kind of dive down into exactly what they're doing there, who they are, what, is it still part of a dream? Like there could be a million explanations, but yeah, these recently for me have been a little bit more aggressive, I guess would be the, like, they're there and they're not going anywhere. So like I can either deal with them or go to sleep, and I choose to go to sleep. So
you need to sleep.
Yeah. I'm an old lady. I want to sleep.
So I think, now that I had a minute to think, so yeah, I'm much like Amanda, and in that, like when we're on investigations, I have more of the oops, like kind of the popping in, but like not personal time. I've had a lot of that, and it's kind of like, oh hey, but like in my normal day-to-day readings is different because I'm welcoming them in to talk to me. So of course they have things that they need to say. My day-to-day, I have a barrier so I can live my life normally. But every now and then I'll feel, the tap, or like I'll hear listen, and then I'm like, okay, what is it? And usually if somebody's trying to get my attention that bad, that person has something that they want to say to someone. Now, that being said, I'm an introvert, and I quit a job because I had to ride the bus down to Cincinnati. I was living in Westchester at the time, and I had to ride the bus, and I quit a job because this guy's uncle. Did I tell this story last time? I don't remember if I did. This guy's uncle had passed away, but like he was wearing a fedora. Like I could explain what he looked like, and like he needed to talk to this guy on the bus that I rode the bus with every day, and I literally quit a job because I needed to tell him, and I couldn't because I was too scared.
Oh yeah, that's a hard one.
Yep. Yeah, I don't like confronting people. I have a lot of faith now. That was in the beginning of my journey when I was still learning things. But I have a lot of faith now that if someone's meant to speak to someone, and it's supposed to be through me, they will find me and it'll happen. But
is there like a Craigslist misconnections for mediums now? Like they were next to you on the bus. Your uncle says hi.
7 years ago, he wore a fedora. You know, he had facial hair.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's nothing worse than being put on the spot, asked to like connect to somebody's relative. And it's even harder when they're distant relatives. Like they've never actually met, but they share a bloodline. And they're just like, this has happened. When I was at Gettysburg, there was a guy's like, my great uncle removed, by decades, died here. Where is he? And I'm like, oh no.
So
I'm like, this is going to take a minute.
Can you reach out and find that person?
At Gettysburg, it's easy because there's a lot of souls around. So you can just kind of ping out like a little radar or like the blue light special at Kmart and go, hey, I'm looking for this person. They were in this regiment. Where are you in this battlefield? And usually like I talk to other ghosts or other spirits to find other ones, kind of chatty like that. So usually that's how I find, in that case, that's how I found him. I'm like, oh, he's sitting on that rock over there. Like he wasn't that far, but we were already in the approximate area where this regiment fought. But I just went, hey guys, where's this dude? And they were like, oh, he's over there smoking. And you're like, okay, thank you, bye. And of course you look insane because it's you and two other people in a large field. And I'm sitting here talking to like a group of dead men. There's about 30 of them. And you're like, well, I can see them. I don't see, I guess, yeah. So at least with that, I was with another medium. So she got it. Yeah. So she's just like, yeah, Kat's just talking. And then the other guy's just like, okay.
I also have it happen too. And I've gotten better at this, but especially in the beginning. But like if you're talking to especially new friends or friends and they're talking about somebody you don't know of, family member, friend or whatever that passed away, and they're like, oh, my uncle passed away, and then they're like, hey, and I'm like, no, leave me alone.
I'm just like a normal person.
Right. I just trying to have a conversation with my friend. You don't know. Stop.
Okay, so the uncle will be there like, hey.
I have an uncle that does that almost every reading because he just thinks that this whole world is the coolest shit ever. Like, sorry.
No, it's okay. No need to. That's not. No, don't worry about it.
Yeah, bleep me.
It's not an F-bomb that I dropped earlier.
We can make nice cat sounds again.
Okay.
Okay. But anyhow, yeah, my uncle like thoroughly enjoys coming through with every reading that I've ever had, and like, wait, this guy just came in. I was like, dude, Mark, come on, man. Like, like, no, this isn't your time. So yeah, there are definitely some very anxious spirits that, like Kat said, once that blue light goes off, they're like,
woof. Yep. Yeah.
Well, sometimes, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Sometimes we'll like be at an investigation and like we'll be doing an investigation in the house or wherever we are. And then all of a sudden I'm like, somebody's popping in from down the street.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they know we're there. They know we're able to communicate. And if they have something to say, gosh darn it, they're going to find us and try to say it. Like,
right.
So you talked about people seeing spirits. Do spirits ever not see living people? Do you ever like? I know that sounds weird. Like, do they ever not see the living people around? Is that a weird question?
No,
there's
that's a
lots
good
of
legitimate
hypotheses.
question. Sorry?
There's lots of ideas.
Yeah. So when I did an investigation at Penhurst Asylum in Pennsylvania. And that one, you're going into a place where the people there, you had a grab bag of whatever ailment that got them put in there. Some of them were just abandoned there, and some of them, well, a lot of people were abandoned there, but for different reasons. And I remember going through that was not an EVP, that was a dog. That was Chewy yawning.
Such a cute rug.
So anyway, we were going through the nursery, and one of the unfortunate points of Penhurst was a lot of children with not just Down syndrome, but other ailments were just left there. So we were walking through, and another sensitive and I could see the kids playing and absolutely did not know anyone else was around. They were in literally their own little world.
Mhm.
So that was an incident where that happened. It's not common. It tends to be only at old abandoned nursing homes, or care facilities, or asylums where I've run into that. And that would be because of their own, like, I don't even think they were actual spirits there. I think they were just residue of the trauma that happened there.
Like,
So,
that's what I was going to ask you, because like,
yeah.
because I haven't encountered that before. That makes perfect sense. But yeah, how did you know between that and residual? Because residual just will walk by because that's what
Yeah.
that energy does. But
Yeah. That was in this one. I think it was a residual that usually people don't tune into, like just kind of like radio static. And myself and my friend, who is also a sensitive, we play off of each other really well. So I think we just kind of brought up that vibration, if to speak in those terms, and we just saw that in our mind's eye. But yeah, it's when I was at Rolling Hills? It's another abandoned nursing home. Oh man, also in Pennsylvania. No, Rolling Hills is a different one. Sorry, just too many locations. But that one, there was patients with dementia that we walked past, and those were really sad because those were souls that literally they were just there. And we try to cross them over, and they're too confused. So that's a work in progress.
That's heartbreaking.
yeah,
You do run into that. Or you have souls that just don't want to cross over, like people with PTSD in Gettysburg. There aren't very many souls left in Gettysburg that haven't been crossed over. There's about a holdout of 10 guys across the entire, from my experience, park that just will not move. But it's because of PTSD.
You do realize that a lot, and I've shared this with my close friends, but like a lot of the people I come across, they're like, "Oh, you're a medium. That's such an amazing gift." And I'm like, "You don't understand that 98% of my readings have been murders, suicides, and drug overdoses. It's not fun. It's hard. It's hard.
You kind of become a therapist, especially when you're trying to get somebody to cross over, because you have to speak you should be, you don't have to. You could yell at them. Nothing's going to happen if you yell at them, though. It's just going to agitate everybody around you.
It still has to be your choice.
Yeah, it's a very much a free will thing.
Yeah.
So
well, I think being, anybody that, is in this arena, has these, whatever it is, you're sensitive to start out with. So that's a good friend of mine who, kind of like what you're saying, Kat, have that like, we kind of heighten each other's vibration when we're around each other. Went a friend of hers had a friend that OD'd, and he wanted to, I want to know that he's okay. It's like, oh God, so we're going into the place where this person passed. And then on top of that, you have, this guy with all of his emotions that you're trying to deal with and separate out. And yeah, it just gets, those sort of things get very overwhelming because like, hey, it's super fun to, see things and talk to things, but there's it's that therapist part. Like there's a ton of emotion that goes with it that you don't necessarily get rid of easily. Like it just hangs around.
Yeah, it's spirits in my when I experience that have not passed over yet, and there are a few. They're not the majority, but they are very stuck to the world for whatever reason. But the spirits that have passed on and are just visiting, oh, they're jolly. They're just happy to see you. They'll chat with you. They'll help you find other spirits. They don't mind. So just and a lot of haunted locations are actually that, just family members popping in to say hello.
I want to be that kind of ghost. Like I want to haunt people just for the fun of it. I want to scare the crap out of people. That would be so much fun.
There's a ghost I experienced at a haunted house attraction in Indiana that does that. They haunt the location because they can.
Yeah, we've also come across a couple jerks, censoring myself, who like try to pretend that they're demonic or
I hate
evil.
them.
Listen, Amanda was with me for this one. It was a residential. Somebody called us freaking out, like he wasn't sleeping in his room. It was bad. And we were there, and there's definitely activity, not to mention the highest EMF I've ever in my life experienced. Electrical, but that can contribute.
I was about to say, what kind of EMF is this?
Yeah.
It was electrical, but if there is activity, they can feed off of that and use it too. So anyway, we were using our flashlights and very obviously Morse code with the flashlights. So Amanda writes it down.
I'm still pissed off at this spirit. Like I am still like you, Ricky. Anyway, go ahead.
No, you finish the story.
But so Kat, you had your flashlight earlier. Like, we use that quite often, the little mag lights on, make them just on. So we were sitting there in this room, just trying to, talk to whoever's there, and the light starts flashing and it starts, it's like, bup, 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 bup. And like, there's an obvious pattern. I'm like, okay. It was like, we've set up the light up for yes, don't for no. And I was like, is this like Morse code or something? Joking. And boom. I'm like, oh, okay. Let me get out the Google and see what we can do. So I started like writing down each of the letters, and it's somewhere saved on my phone, but it spelled out a name and then said hi. And this name, I Googled it, and it was, Ashlee, what was it? It was like the not the spirit of Mary, but it was like a deity tied to Mary. And I'm like, no, you're not.
It was
like you're just like, I'm just like, no, you're absolutely not. And I walked outside. I'm like, I'm not
it's like when they pretend to be Zozo, and you're like, God damn it, I know you're not. Your name is Jeff.
And the guy, and I know he was getting his jollies because the guy that lived there, he was like this big guy. He was not someone you'd probably take for a fool. But he was actually getting ready to start seminary school. So like he was convinced that the spirit was a demon, and like we really had to go in there and be therapists and be like, listen.
Right.
But
having to tell him like, buddy, this dude's just effing with you, man. Like sorry, I understand you're experiencing things, but
and until like you have to know that, and they're not going to leave you alone until you're like, just cut it out, I'm going to ignore you. And if you actually mean that, it'll stop. If it's something like that.
How do you
Usually.
shut yourself off? Like you've said that you can, I mean, is that the first thing you learn when you start having these experiences? You learn how to shut it off?
I
Not
think
soon
so.
enough.
I mean, it took me like 25 years to figure out how to do it mostly. I still have moments where I can't stay in a restaurant or the store. Like, still happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my case, because I grew up in such a haunted house, it was a self-defense mechanism to figure out how to shut it off and just really kind of drum up the courage to just say, no, not right now. And understand that you have the ability to just push away when you need to.
Yeah.
And now, like with my house, my entire house, this is going to sound extremely witchy,
I know
but
exactly what you're going to say.
yeah. So
Because I do it too.
I'm in a safe place. It's okay. Yes, there are wards in my house and outside in my yard to keep things from getting in because I don't want them bothering my child. I don't want them bothering my pets because when they're spooked, it's very hard to calm them down.
Yeah.
And I've had to throw out entities from time to time. I'm looking at you, Bill, who would come in and be like, hey, I'm a cold spot. I'm going to rock in your hallway, like walk up and down. I'm like, no, you're not, sir. And you just kind of pluck them out. So, like I said, it sounds very witchy, but it's just a way of keeping your home, I want to say golden because you're trying to cast golden light into it, but
it's all
the energy
intention.
up. It's
Like
all
that's-
intention based.
It's all intention. And yeah, like when I moved in here, I had Ashlee come in, sage, bless the entire place. That's obviously wearing off, even though I've, done it regularly, black tourmaline everywhere. But yeah, I'm, give me the witchy route any day. Like I'm about to clean this whole place and then put iron spikes at all four corners of my yard. Like
It works.
Done.
It works.
Yeah.
What are some easy things people can do if they want to batten down the hatches, so to speak, in their house?
Well,
First is tell them to get out.
Yeah, that's it. And with with intent. It isn't like, hey, it'd be really nice if you got out of my house because I don't feel the vibe that you're giving. If you talk like that, they're going to stay.
And if you don't actually mean it, no matter how you say it, if you don't actually mean it, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because that happened. One of the haunts we're going to be reading in a couple weeks when we do just a regular episode and do a haunt. There was somebody that was experiencing something and something came home with him and he said to leave and he was not bothered by it again.
Yeah, it usually it's that. Like when I had the pervy priest from Saddamsville follow me home. I know I told this the last time you were on. I did in the most shaky voice, but it was full of intent of just get out of my house. So it's a lot of its intent. Sage works. People like sage. That can work. You can do wards like, oh, here we go. This is not one of the wards protecting my house, but this is a Buddhist sutra that I got from a friend.
Sage is also not
Japan.
the only option.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Palo Santo. That's typically my go-to. Also, let's see.
You can do, if you look it up, there's dried herbs, just about anything. There's a lot.
What is that?
This is selenite and this is black tourmaline.
Oh, interesting.
There's black tourmaline at pretty much every entrance to my home. So, and they're not doing their job. So we're going to have to talk about that on the next full moon. Witchy stuff.
Yeah, it's
and they can't cross that stuff.
It's still intention, but it's something physical with intention. Like I know we were talking earlier about like divination tools and stuff, like using pendulums and stuff to be able to talk to. And we use dowsing rods when we go out on investigations. Those are all tools to kind of, in my opinion, channel the intention. It's not necessarily something that, a spirit's like, oh, it's got black tourmaline, like I'm not going in. No, there's still there's vibrations to it, but there's definitely intention with it. And I don't think there's a spirit out there. It's like, you know what, unless they have a rose quartz pendulum, I'm just not going to talk to them today. So it's all intention.
I also want to say that like with black tourmaline, there's also like physical aspects that it does. Like it'll actually help absorb negative EMFs, like real electrical EMFs that affect you. So it actually does that too, in addition to helping protect from like spiritual things.
That's good to know.
Sorry, I'm just imagining how much black tourmaline it would take. It's like, would I need a suit? Do I need to line my house with it?
Right. I want bricks of black tourmaline to build my house out of.
Yeah. And then how expensive would that? Yeah. But yeah, like with that, like these, it's whatever you can focus with, just for your intention. And so it can be anything, and spirits will react to different things from their own personal experiences if they're not residual. So in the United States, using crosses a lot helps because that's something recognizable. Is it universal? No. But yeah.
And what does iron do?
Iron's a barrier.
Yeah, so that's why you would be putting spikes in things in like the ground in certain ways to keep barriers. I think it also helps barrier fae. So that's why you get them a lot in like Great Britain. Please, Great Britain listeners, they can be.
Yeah, from what I understand.
The fae and jinn. I don't know if either of you have run into anything non-human entity-wise, but I run into a lot of jinn and elementals. Those are all those fae, jinn.
Elementals, I wouldn't necessarily say a jinn that I've run into. Ashlee, have you?
I don't think so.
There's one running around Gettysburg. And they're fun. They're when I say fun, it is with air quotes. They are fun. They can be your ally or they can be your biggest antagonist during a investigation, because it depends on their mood that day and if you brought anything to give them. So like when we were doing an investigation of a old farm just off of Gettysburg property, it was the Daniel Stewart farm, I think. They have two large ponds there, and man, this is one of those episodes where I sound so nutter. Anyway,
at least you're in good company.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So
you sound normal to me.
Okay, that's good.
Sane. I should say sane. Okay.
So elementals, jinn, fae have a very different vibe than anything that has lived on this earth. And you just walk in and everything just feels super elevated, almost like you're floating, at least in my experience. And I was just like, wow, this energy feels very spiritual, really. That's the best way to explain it. Uplifting. I guess it was happy to see us. But we had not a whole bunch, but we were going to have a picnic, and then it was a meet and greet for the previous radio show I was on. So listeners got to meet, and we did a large picnic and potluck on the first evening. We were not investigating or doing a ghost hunt at the farm. It was also used as a Airbnb, so we had the farm. We had rented it, and then the next few nights we were going to investigate there and at other places around Gettysburg. So we get there and we're setting up, and another medium friend and I are setting up stuff, and she happened to have, I think it was Patron. And I was just like, do you feel very light? And she's like, yeah. And I go, I think we have an elemental or a non-human around. And she's like, well, what do we do? And I'm like, well, I only have experience with in Japan how we would handle this, because kami, or spirit that isn't human, is quite common there. That's why you have Shinto shrines in a lot of places. And when you deal with kami, you are giving alcohol is very popular. It's the same with Fae. Alcohol is very popular.
You literally
And
poured one out for your Fae homies, didn't you?
we did. We did 3 shots and we poured them out within a respectable distance from the lake, so it wasn't actually going to get in. But boy, we had a very active weekend. It was just like they were like, sure, if you want to talk to the boys who are here, because this used to be a triage center for the war, go right ahead. Here they are. And we had so much activity. So
actually,
that was my direct experience with a I think it was gin. I like think them that way, but Fae is also a good way of putting it.
I mean, I have a lot of friends that are super into like fairies and fae and leave milk out for leprechauns and stuff like that.
right.
You don't want to piss them off. They
No.
get on
But-
you.
Ashley, maybe we should bring a treat next time when we're in Hamilton.
The Historical Society, I think so.
Right. The first time that we went up there, you know, kind of getting my bearings, I hadn't looked up anything on the house and went into this bedroom, and I was just like this is weird. Like there's something, but there's what? And I'm like looking in the closet and around the bed, and I'm like, what is this? Like this isn't a spirit in here. And Ashley's making that face that she's making now, like, yeah, there's something here. And I'm like, it's something. I was like, it's an elemental, and that's it. It's very light, but it's also very mischievous. Like they're tricky little buggers, and they just want to like. So yeah, we need to. I'm gonna bring in a cookie next time that we're up there.
Yeah, bring in something.
Right.
The only ones that I've found that are willing to work with you, even if you don't have anything, are green men. I don't know if you run into any of them. They're a type of fae, but they're so chill, and they're usually around really old trees.
Oh,
Yeah,
neat.
that's what I was gonna
So
say, yeah.
if you want to calm down a location and you happen to have some ancient trees around, requesting the assistance of a green man is usually a good way of chilling everything out. So they kind of come in like grandpas, and they're just like, okay, you youngins, you little human spirits, settle down. Grandpa's
Just
sleeping.
like that.
Yeah.
Just like it.
I love it.
That's what I heard, that the
So
trees
when-
feel sorry for us.
Yeah.
When I go and buy a new house, you guys are going to come over and cleanse it for me, right? Right.
We can actually probably just walk through and let you know where everyone is.
I actually had a full-on conversation with my realtor about partnering with her if she ever needed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really smart. Now, both of you all of you have kids. Do any of you have family members that also seem to share this?
Yeah, Ashley, you can go.
Oh God.
My story's more. My family doesn't really talk to each other that much. Like I think my grandma, but she just spends a lot of time with me, you know. So, but yeah, that's not really a conversation. Like when my uncle Mark, the first time that he came through, I had to be able to verify things that came through. I had to go to my dad and go, so I did this crazy thing. It was just silly, like this medium, and said something about a leather, and I had to make it into a joke. So his, very, super analytical mind
guard
not gonna
down.
think that I was crazy. So
Yeah.
it could be in my family. I don't know. Ashley, you.
So my dad's mom, my grandma, my dad's side, she was Shawnee and very much in the Shawnee community. She taught me a lot of what I know and taught my mom, who then taught me some of the things that I was too young for at the time. But she was very much spiritual, and I didn't know how much until she actually passed. I ended up inheriting all of her things. So like everything that I have were hers, but she definitely had, I think she was a medium. And then my great grandma on my mom's side, which we didn't talk about because they were Baptist, like it was just a thing, but she would just know stuff like way before it would happen. And she would tell people, but it didn't get talked about like it being weird. It was just like, oh, this is gonna happen, and everyone was just like, okay.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And then my kids.
Yeah, your kids definitely.
So do they see stuff, or what do they do?
So I think my oldest is the lowest. We'll see, is the lowest on the sensitive scale between my kids. My middle one, when she was born, like 4 months after she was born, like it was the light switch that I had to start doing readings. I don't know. She's very empathic. There may be more there. I don't know. I'm very wary of tapping into my kids too much. It scares me. But my son, and this may just be because where I was on my spiritual journey throughout, I mean, I was getting deeper in my spirituality by my third kid. But like when TMI, when sperm met egg, I literally had a vision. Like I knew I was pregnant in that very moment because I saw like the star explode. I was laying with my eyes closed and I knew exactly what it meant. And then
that's really cool.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
He came to a lot of the meditation circles. Anyone close to Ashlee saw him in every meditation.
The first weekend after that, we had our first meditation circle, and everyone was like, I see a baby boy in a basket, or I see a baby in a uterus. And I'm like, I still didn't have a positive test. I was like,
so he really picked you.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Seems
I mean,
so,
if you ascribe to that, to people picking the situation that they want, then he made a reservation.
It was bizarre. And then I had just gotten the positive test. I was like 3 weeks pregnant. The following weekend, I went to my Reiki 2 training. And this is a funny story. This has nothing to do with the topic. I'm sorry. But she was attuning us and she got done and she goes, why did I just attune you guys to level 1 again? And she did our level 1 already, and it was just me and Matt. And she goes, that's really weird. Because she was like, how do you guys feel? And we were like, I mean, it was different, but it didn't feel way different. And then she realized that she had done level 1 again. And she goes, hang on. I got to do level 2. So she went back and we spent another 15-20 minutes doing the level 2 attunement. And I still hadn't said anything. I was keeping this a secret because I was curious to see if they would pick up on it when we practice on each other. And of course, the next thing we do is we practice. So I was like, I'm first. And I got on the table. And they were both like, what is going on? And they were like hovering over my abdomen. And I'm like, I'm going to be pregnant. And then my teacher was like, oh my God. She's like, I had to attune the baby to level 1 before I attuned you to level 2 because they can't start. I mean, we didn't know that it was a he, I did, but she's like, they can't start at a level 1, at a level 2. It's got to be a level 1. So anyway, long story short, he got attuned all the way through mastership level with me in the womb. And he would like help me do Reiki. And he was really strong. And like, there were times where I'd tell him to slow down and stop because like it was making me sick during Reiki sessions. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely got the healing touch, and I'm struggling with him in many ways, but he's only 1. So we have a lot of things that come up and I'm like, I think this is spiritual, but then I don't know how to deal with it. So It's hard. It's hard having a sensitive kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can he talk yet at all? Or I guess once, or I mean, I only have cats, so I don't know how.
We're saying we actually sing Hallelujah, the song at bedtime. It's totally not an appropriate song for bedtime, but whatever. And so for whatever reason, his favorite word is hallelujah, which is a 4-syllable word, but he'll just run around and scream hallelujah.
Oh, that's really cute.
But
that's really cute.
That's pretty much the extent of his speaking. And he says thank you. He actually speaks a lot for a 1-year-old, and I really thought he was going to have some trouble with the throat chakra, which may come later. But yeah, I don't know.
That's fascinating.
He's been waking up like every 10 minutes, and we're trying to figure that one out right now.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I got adult kids. Done.
I did have to boot some family spirits out of the nursery, like my dad or my grandmother, because they'd come in and just coo over our little guy. And I was just like, he can't sleep because you keep waking him up. And they're like, oh, but he's so cute. And I'm like, I know, he's adorable. He's a toddler. They're going to be
while
cute.
he's awake.
Yeah, visit while he's awake.
Right.
What was
Set
funny
a time
was,
on the Google Calendar. Like, just
yeah, it's just like, yeah. Contrary to Ashlee, when I was pregnant, any reading I did was wrong. Everything was just wrong. It was just, it was the flip of everything that I was reading. And I was just like, well, 9 months, I'm not going to be able to read anything because everything was wrong. So I'm not sure what little guy has. Like, I'm not sure.
Nuts. I was scared to do readings after he was born because I was scared I wasn't going to be as good. It felt like he helped me.
It took a full year for me to start reading again accurately.
Oh,
and like, and also being able to talk to spirit again. And yeah, it was just, I don't know why it took so long.
That's really interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
Is there anybody else in your family, Kat?
No. Well, let me just say, almost everyone on my side of the family is dead. So I do use them as my little phone tree. But
whatever they had in life.
Yeah. But no, there's no family stories really of, like, my grandparents in my side of the family. People have kids really late in life. You're looking at like 44 years old, 41, like that. So my grandparents were born in 1901. And so they were a big part. They grew up in the spiritualist movement. So table tipping and Ouija board reading and stuff like that was something that they were familiar with, which was helpful whenever I do use any type of divination device. They come in and they're just like, okay, we're going to make sure nothing funky gets through this. But, which is helpful. But, yeah, other than there's really no one. Everyone's just like, we're boring potatoes. We're just humans.
As far as they know.
As far as they know.
What is a reading like? Like when you are reading something, like what happens?
Kind of like
what's
this.
It? Okay. So you just talk to someone and then you just kind of.
And people start lining up.
Yeah.
I think I want a reading from both, all of you.
I do not do it professionally at all. Still playing around.
I don't know if I'm ready for it though, but I think I would like one at some point.
For me, it's an hour-long process. And I have like a process that I follow. Especially because I've been doing more virtual, which I swore I would never do, but COVID forced me into it. And I realized that it was possible because I didn't used to think it was. And I thought people were nuts. But I always start the night before. I plan my readings. I start the night before and I start letting spirits know that if they need to come through, that they can. And sometimes I'll start getting little bits and pieces, words, images ahead of time. And then once I get, if it's virtual or in person, once I get with whoever I'm doing the reading for, I take like 5 to 10 minutes. I write everything down. And I always feel bad and awkward when I'm sitting with somebody because I'm like, hi, I'm going to be quiet now. So I just sit and like write down everything that comes through first. Sometimes it's just words. Sometimes it's really random crap that I'm scared to say because it sounds nuts. Like I've had pickles and a lot of times it's food. I have a lot of food. I've had pickles and hot dogs have both been things that made people cry. Okay.
Whoa.
So like I feel nuts with things sometimes, but I write down stuff and the longer, and I pinpoint like it's a male, it's a female, it's this age range, it's this age range. And then I start, if they want to, they show me what they look like and I write down that a little bit. And then once I start like talking to them about whoever's coming through, then it just kind of turns into a conversation between the two of them. And I just let it flow. They'll just keep bringing stuff up, and a lot of it is like stuff just to let them know that it's them, to kind of erase the question of, is this lady just taking me for my money? Like it'll be memories or something that they have that they're bringing up. So a lot of it's just confirmations, but then like it gets into usually a deep conversation. A lot of the times this is why I killed myself, or this is how I felt when I was murdered, or, you know, and kind of wrapping those loose ends and making sure that everyone knows, like, no, it wasn't your fault. It usually ends up getting to those types of things for the serious ones, and most of them are serious. And I've actually this past month had to take a step back because it's becoming more, for me, it's taking more of my energy than I'm getting in return for things. So I hate charging people money, period. So like upping my price hurts, and I don't want to do that. And I don't know, it's hard, but yeah, that's where I am.
That's really interesting, because for our next comic, I'm doing one about a medium from Price Hill. She did a reading with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and that's one and she did slate writing, so she wrote everything down on slates. And so I've been figuring out I've been trying to figure out how to illustrate it. I'm still not 100% sure, because it seems to me like a lot of this, and this kind of gets into like spiritualism in the 20s. It seems like a lot of the stuff that they have, like she would put her slate under a table and write while she wasn't looking. Like, so she would write. And it seems like a lot of this stuff was done like for theatrical purposes more than like,
because what she was doing was automatic writing.
And but it seems like a lot of the stuff that you read about, it's like, well, why did she, like, you know, and Kat is the editor of the comic, so but when I was reading it, he was saying how she might have done it, and I was like, but why would you, like, why would you have to go to all the subterfuge to show, like, it didn't make a lot of sense to me when I saw what he said might have happened. Because I was like, when I was trying to draw it, I was trying to position myself how someone would be. And I was like, well, wouldn't it be really obvious if you had a stick and you were...
So reading that and being familiar with automatic writing and techniques from the 20s, it's kind of, some of it was show, like you're reading for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. You're going to make sure this thing looks flamboyant as possible. But also you had people like Houdini who were trying to constantly call you out. And that was far more common. So you're trying to do something where you're trying to do an authentic reading to somebody. In Prudence case, she did automatic writing. And you're trying to communicate this thing to your client, but at the same time trying to make sure there's no fraud happening, or trying to prove that there's no fraud happening. And it's just tricky. So I think that's why she covered herself when she was doing her automatic writing with the box.
I was like, why would you just not
so
write
that
it out?
she isn't staring at, have you ever done any of those writing or drawing exercises where you do something without looking at the sheet of paper? That's what she was trying to prove, that she could still write without looking via automatic writing. And that's why it's so tricky. And
it's really fascinating.
For me, I write and like, it's sort of automatic writing, but I'm looking, but like the word is coming out on paper before it like clicks in my head. So that's why I'm writing it out. And a lot of times that's just how I have to, that's just my process. But that's what it is. Like it's coming out on the paper before I even fully hear it in my head. It's really hard to explain.
I'm kind of
But there is someone hanging around you, Jen, if you were curious. Sorry.
Like right at this moment?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm never gonna sleep.
I'm sorry.
Can you tell me who?
It's a bigger dude with dark hair. He kind of looks like a bear. So that's the way I describe like guys that are built like refrigerators with lots of hair.
Does he have a beard? Is he bald back to here?
Yeah. He kind of looks like Eamon, actually, Christina.
Oh, really?
Salt and pepper hair?
Well, I just see dark colored hair. I'm not seeing gray, but he can wear glasses. Doesn't always wear glasses. Darker shirt. Kind
Beer
of.
belly?
Yeah, that's why I say built like a bear or a refrigerator. He's just a really big guy.
That might be my dad.
Okay. It's just a dude who's related to you. So yeah, your dad. That was all the
Okay.
information I was getting. So I see things kind of animated. And he's on, let's see, that's that side, so that would be your left side.
Did he wear printed t-shirts like band
Yeah,
shirts or
he was
something?
wearing a
I'm seeing the t-shirt.
yeah, it was the black casual. So
No, he never wore printed t-shirts. But t-shirt, he was a jeans t-shirt guy.
yeah,
I see it there.
casual stuff.
Interesting.
Well, I'd rather it be my dad than some dude I don't know.
Yeah, no, I wasn't getting it. So one sensitive that I talked to said that depending on where they're positioned around you depends on their relationship to you. And
Interesting.
And this on my left would be my dad.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
a relation.
I guess that's where the relation would be. This was something I'm not as skilled with.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't usually
typically where
see-
I go is, they're showing up, and it's for me, from my perspective. So they're showing up on my left side is typically where I see like the dad's side. The mother's side will show up on my right.
Interesting. Who would have thought
yeah.
that it would, that's interesting. That's so structured. I guess I would have never pictured it that way, but
Well, it's also, I mean, I hate some of the, some of the psychics and readers that are on TV and all that bullshit that do gallery readings. Sorry, I cussed again.
no worries.
Yep, another little cat meow there.
Vivi's like, did someone say cat meow? She's been on glue like me. She's been on me lately all the time.
But yeah, that's like I've spent a lot of time as I've kind of worked on mediumship, and I mean it's a muscle. You work with it, you learn. But yeah, kind of figuring out like, oh, I'm feeling something here. I'm feeling something here, or the color yellow means this to me. So instead of going like, I see the color yellow, and they're like, that means nothing. Well, it means something to me. It's all of my little clues.
Are you seeing it now? Any of you? Seriously?
Yeah. The dude? Yeah, he's there. Like in my mind's eye, he's wearing a black t-shirt that has some kind of white lettering on it that's obscured because his arm's in the way.
I keep seeing lettering too.
Yeah, there's lettering, but I can't make out what it is. And yeah, wearing jeans and a type of tennis shoe. That's not Vans, but
New Balance.
Yeah, it's like a tennis shoe in between like a fashion shoe and a normal like what I call like
I'm convinced it's my dad.
Oh,
and I've always kind of felt like my dad was watching over me because he died when I was 16. So I always kind of felt like he was there. Maybe he's there because my mom recently died. And if you're tell me, are you seeing yellow or not?
Oh, I'm not seeing anything there. Yeah.
I'm not picking up on really. I'm just picking up on him. I'm not getting any aura readings or anything.
Okay.
But
yellow is a significant color.
I'm not seeing yellow.
Okay.
But I will say for our readers, for our listeners, I've never met Jen in person.
No.
I've only talked to her through Zoom. I don't know her family at all. So I'm just literally picking up on what this dude's throwing out. That's a weird way of phrasing it. But yeah. But that's it. I'm not getting any aura colors or favorite colors. He's just hanging out. I think it's because we're talking about it. It tends to bring spirits forward that usually are a little bit more passive.
Well, I hope it's my dad. If
he's not spooking you. He's not causing any weird bumps. He's not doing anything like that. No one at the window. No breathing in your ear.
No,
he's not that kind of person. It's your cat.
Thank you.
That's an interesting thing, because we were talking about, the feet usually missing or whatever. Like, do people usually appear as their favorite time of life, or
Oh yeah.
okay?
Cool.
I
So
do
it's-
have to request people. Sorry, I'm just jumping in to answer this one. I do have to request if somebody has died in a very tragic way, like a soldier or somebody who was hit by a car or even took their own life via suicide. I'm like, I understand this is how you passed. I don't really want to see it. So please show yourself in your best, basically, all put together.
I feel like the only time that I've done that where it's like seeing the actual death was doing psychometry, which
Mhm.
I'm like, nope, don't
No.
like it, don't
Mm-mm.
wanna.
what
Like,
is?
I'm not.
Could you give us the definition of that? I'm sorry, I don't know these terms.
Psychometry is one of the, like, if somebody holds an object that belonged
Mm-hmm.
to the deceased, and
Mhm.
you're getting a reading off of that. So yeah, I've felt the death before, like that, like Ashlee was saying, like you can feel it sometimes, and that gives you a clue, and then you can tell them to kind of like back off. But at least for me, psychometry was just like this overwhelming, like, just holding an object, and the energy in an object is just
Mhm.
it's way too much. But that was the only time that I've ever seen the death, and I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah,
Good.
that happens with true crime. Sometimes if you have like a witness on, and I'll accidentally just do that. I'm like, nope, do not, no, we're not going that way. Um, because usually it's traumatic. It's true crime is never a happy thing. So,
No.
especially when it
Can you?
has to do with children, and that's just
Oh, I was going to ask
Yep.
you, can you contact Jean Bonnet? Because I really want to know who killed that poor girl.
A lot of people try to contact her, and she's kind of like,
Like,
uh-uh.
nope, I'm not having it. Oh,
We
poor
all know the
baby.
brother did it.
You think it was the brother?
Yes. I think it was the brother. I think it was an accident. I think the parents did a big job trying to cover it up.
But if they covered, how could you do that to your kid? The way they, like the garrote and everything. How do you do that
To protect the
your
other one.
baby? All right.
Hey, we
So-
just had a parents run
Sorry.
over their own son
That-
here in Cincinnati. So
That's true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I have to say I can't even touch those types of things because it just
No, I don't blame you. I had a dream recently. It was kind of a weird sci-fi dream where scientists had figured out how to bring back the dead, especially murder victims, to find out who killed them. And this is solely because I listened to too much true crime. And the first person they brought back was Jean Bonnet, but she wasn't saying anything. But she was there, and she had like a line across her throat. Her lips were black, and she was young, but she had a knowledge to her face. And it was
I
almost
like the premise. I would watch the movie. 10 out of 10. Yes.
yeah.
It was just
That's a good
it was
sci-fi
interesting.
story idea.
Yeah.
Not necessarily John Bonet, but the concept is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just some dead don't want to speak, and you just let that go.
So
Yeah.
what's your strongest visual? I mean, have you guys ever gotten sick or thrown up from an experience? Like what's the most visceral thing that's happened when you're doing a reading? I mean, if you don't want to go there, you don't have to. Like,
I ran into a skunk, and that was pretty visceral.
That sounds really visceral. Well, you had said a lot of hauntings are, possums, and so I guess that could be. But is that like when you talk about being overwhelmed, is it ever like nausea and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do either of you want to go first? Because I got a story for everything, and I don't want to take over.
I've never actually vomited. I usually remove myself from the situation, but I'm not really much of a crier. I'm pretty stone-faced, but there are more than enough times where just tears start coming, and the emotions are what I'm usually kind of overcome by in some of those. But yeah, the nausea, but no actual hurling. So I'm not gonna hold on to that.
I have vomited once. And that was early on, and I blame myself because I should have stopped before it got there. I do have a very clear, the word I'm looking for is not coming to me. I want to say clause, but that's not what it is. Very clear in my process that if I feel too overwhelmed or sick, I have the right to quit the reading.
Mm-hmm.
I have found a lot here recently when I feel that way. There's a balance between I need to push through and I need to stop. A lot of times recently, because I've had a lot of that heavy stuff recently, it'll be because I'm feeling everything that they felt, right? And I think I vomited after the reading. And it was the last guy who was the victim of a serial murderer here in Cincinnati. He's the one that led to his arrest ultimately. It was after that one that I threw up, but it was just overwhelming with everything that I saw and sensed. But I knew that I had to get through that one. Like, I don't know.
So is there a process you go through after reading to kind of cleanse yourself so that like zero out, if you will?
You can
I
hug
do
a
a-
tree.
I do a full, you can, God, my brain isn't working. It's late. Dry cleanse. I dry cleanse. You can wipe energy off, and then I always ground, and then I kind of just put my walls way up high
Mm-hmm.
and protect myself and go about my day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, like grounding, like hugging a tree, being around nature helps a lot. And then, yeah, just kind of mentally surrounding yourself with golden light, which is kind of like a spiritual UV, so that anything that's clinging on kind of gets dissolved. Usually they accidentally pass on that way because they're just like, oh, I didn't mean to do this. Blah. Like,
Oh, that's pretty wild. Well,
yeah, and then just the walls. Amanda, do you have any way?
Same thing. It's grounding. It's also that intention of
Mm-hmm.
nobody is allowed to stick around. Absolutely not. Sometimes kind of like what Ashlee said with the dry cleansing, but I'll kind of sweep myself with a selenite wand and just kind of brush all of that energy away.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually a good note to end. It's after 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's way
Is it
past
really?
everybody's
Oh.
bedtime.
Yeah.
And been really, we hope we can see everyone in person and maybe like, check something out or go somewhere, hopefully have you on again. It's been really interesting. I think people will find this really fascinating.
Mhm.
Yeah, they liked the
Mhm.
first episode a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
it's
Well,
fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, and is there anything you want to plug? Do you want us to? So you said if you want us to plug people coming to you for readings, or just plug your website. And Amanda, you're going to be on our friend Anthony Mansfield's podcast.
Yep.
What's it called? It's called.
It is, and this should be top of mind, but it's not because I have past my bedtime brain. It's what are you into? Isn't that it? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it is something like that. Yes.
What you into? Yeah, with Tank. So Anthony Tank Mansfield. But yeah, he said that has 3 episodes up on Libsyn, and they will soon be on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. But yeah, I went on there. Just he talks to people about literally what they're into, and if it's something that he's into, then it's basically a geek fest of them talking. And if it's something that he wants to know about, like he had me on to talk about collecting dead things, so I had to sit there and face the fact that my life revolves around just dead, a lot of dead in every form and fashion. So super fun.
I have so many artist friends that collect skulls and stuff like that. So
Right. Skulls, taxidermy. It's
Mhm.
the whole I introduced Tank to what a baculum was. He was
Ooh.
very surprised. He didn't realize those existed. So
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something, if we want to learn what that is, we can listen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Tune in here.
And what
If
about
I
you,
should-
Ashlee? Oh, sorry.
I mean, you can find me and the team at spiritualrealmconsulting.net. I'm currently taking a short hiatus from actually doing readings, so I will be booking them, but booking them out a month or two in advance. And then I do Reiki too, so in the area. Reiki is like once every couple weeks because it's a home visit, and I have to like mask, face shield, be safe. So I'm kind of really making those few and far between, but I will do them. And then, yeah, you can find all the team's information there too. And then we're on Facebook at Spiritual Realm Paranormal.
Yep.
Well, thanks
Yeah, we
again.
have a couple of private investigations coming up. So I think that's important. If anybody is experiencing anything, we have a form to fill out and emailing with some of us to, find out what's going on, and we'll absolutely come out and try and help if we can.
Well,
and then later this year, public investigation live podcast.
Woo.
Yay. That I can't wait. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
Thanks
this
for
is
having
fun.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I show you a picture of my dad and you tell me whether or not it's the guy?
Sure.
Or should I not?
Live confirmation.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
All right. Let me find my. Can you see him?
Yeah. That looks like him. I think I was seeing him younger.
Yeah.
Younger.
That is a few months before he died.
Okay. Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't have a salt and pepper beard like that. It was
Okay.
brown, but I
Okay.
was getting the impression I was seeing him in his like mid to late 30s.
Okay.
But
All right,
with that
he
beard.
was 43 when he died. So.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So not as gray, but
Okay.
not too far from that. Yeah.
And if it's not, it's okay. If it's not, like, I won't be offended. But
No,
if that was my dad, then okay.
I'm just kind of like, I didn't expect to do a reading tonight. And
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. That
he popped in and I had been looking at him like, oh, okay.
So you're free to tell me when it's nice things like that. If there's anything creepy or scary around me, you tell them.
We'll boot them off, yes. But
Okay.
nothing creepy or spooky is around you. Like you said, it's your cat. So
Okay.
yeah. So on that note, everyone, thank you for joining us for another wonderful episode of the Hometown Haunts podcast, brought to you by the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities Comics Anthology. I am your host, Kat Cloco. Along with me is Christina Wald and Jen Kohler and her dad somewhere back in the shadows. You can catch us on YouTube and iTunes. You can follow us at Cin Cabinet Curio on Twitter and Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram. And if you have a hometown haunt you would like to have us read on the show, you can send those to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com. And with that, stay spooky, everyone. Good night.